Before I begin, this story is up 18 years. When you have kids around, please use headphones. Thank you for your understanding. Encounters with aliens in Aokigahara Forest, Suicide Forest, Japan. Aokigahara, also known as the Sea of Trees, is a forest on the northwestern flank of Mount Fuji on the island of Honshu in Japan, growing on 12 square miles of hardened lava that erupted during Mount Fuji's last major eruption in 864 AD, was created. The western edge of Aokigahara, where there are several caves that fill with ice in winter, is a popular destination for tourists and school trips. Parts of Aokigahara are very dense and the porous lava rock absorbs sound, contributing to a feeling of loneliness that some visitors attribute to the forest. The forest has a historical reputation as the home of the Yuri, spirits of the dead in Japanese mythology. Aokigahara has been associated with suicide since the 1960s at the latest. In English, it was eventually nicknamed Suicide Forest and gained a reputation as one of the most used suicide locations in the world. For this reason, signs at the beginning of some hiking trails urge suicidal visitors to think about their families and contact a suicide prevention organization. The people who live there warn against entering the forest. The forest is enchanted and haunted. Unknown light phenomena have also been observed in the past. Some have observed strange creatures and believe that they are the Yuri, the spirits of the death. Mysterious creatures from Japanese folk mythology appear and kidnap unwary people in the Aokigahara forest. In fact, some people have already disappeared without a trace. Volcanoes are also considered hotspots for unknown light phenomena and flying objects. Are these Yuri perhaps aliens who have been appearing in this area for thousands of years? Akio is a sincere and reserved guy. He is mentally exhausted. A few months ago, his wife and children died in a traffic accident. He was traveling with them when it happened. A drunk driver cuts off the right-of-way and crashes directly into the side of his car. His wife and children died instantly. Since then, Akio has been a mental wreck. He could no longer work and lost his job. Friends advise him to go to a psychologist. Akio got angry and argued with them. Now he is bitter and lonely. Akio was traditionally raised according to Japanese culture. His family tree shows that his family descends from a famous samurai. According to the old samurai tradition, Akio wants to end his life via harakiri. Harakiri means suicide by a samurai sword. He packed his things and a tent to drive to Aokigahara Forest and commit suicide after meditating for a long time. Akio takes the old samurai sword from his family possessions to help him with harakiri. He parks his car in the parking lot of Aokigahara Forest. Some cars have been there for months. These cars belong to people who committed suicide somewhere in the forest or disappeared without a trace. Sometimes hikers find their remains in the forest. Before he goes into the forest, there is a very large sign that says, "Think about your family and loved ones too." Akio doesn't care, he's made his decision. He goes into the forest. It's eerily quiet, no birdsong or other noises can be heard. Even the running noises cannot be heard. The trees look rustic and old. He goes very deep into the dense forest to find a suitable spot. Every now and then he comes across rope remains that look like nooses, and he also finds a human skeleton with rotting clothes. He finally finds his place where he can set up his tent. It's a small clearing in the middle of the forest. After setting everything up, he sits cross-legged on a blanket and places the sword in front of him. He starts meditating. He sits there and thinks about his wife and his children who died. Akio remembers the times when they went to the cinema, visited the zoo, ate together in a restaurant, how he played together with his children. He begins to cry and questions himself about the point of taking his own life. Okay, it was an extreme misfortune, but that's why his dead wife and dead children don't come back to life. He puts the sword in the tent and starts to build a campfire because it is already late and dusk is approaching. Akio decides that he will go back home the next morning. He plans to apologize to his friends and will seek psychological help to deal with his trauma. It's dark but something isn't right. The forest is usually dead quiet, but there is this noise. A cracking and humming noise can be heard in the undergrowth. Akio fills up with something watching him. He looks around and there is this creature standing naked, a narrow body with very long arms and this disproportionate head with dark eyes. The 5 feet tall creature walks upright and Akio knows from science fiction films that it is an extraterrestrial being. He believes that these creatures are called greys because of their gray skin. The creature makes squawking, clicking noises and more creatures emerge from the thicket. Akio is currently thinking about the legend of the Yuri, the spirits of the dead, who have been wreaking havoc in this forest for thousands of years. The ancestors associated the aliens as spirits. Akio now knows the truth. He is in an alien hotspot, or rather UFO area. The creatures communicate with frantic clicking noises. They begin to surround Akio, and he quickly takes out his samurai sword. He pulls it out of its sheath and is determined to defend himself. Akio knows that he wants to live and will fight for it. The creatures extend long claws from their fingers and reveal sharp-tipped rice teeth. These are here to prey and see Akio as their prey. One of these creatures rushes forward and Akio makes a quick strike with his sword. Black blood flows from the creature's stomach, which remains crumpled on the ground and dies. Now everyone comes at once. Akio fights like the old samurais. He deftly takes side steps and strikes with his sword. Martial arts are in his genes. One creature is decapitated by him and the others lie on the ground, seriously injured. Suddenly an unknown flying object appears above him. The dead and injured aliens are beamed into the flying object. Akio has seen enough. He runs towards the parking lot, repeatedly stumbling or hitting something. Akio runs for his life. He falls and sees shimmering orbs flying above the treetops. These orbs make quick turning maneuvers and eventually disappear into the night sky. Akio doesn't know how long he's been running. When he finally reaches the parking lot, exhausted and bleeding from several abrasions, he collapses. He sits up again and opens his car. He sits down and falls into a deep sleep. The next morning he wakes up and the first thing he hears is the singing of the birds that he missed so much in the forest. Akio wants to go back to the place where he camped. He wants to get his things quickly. In the middle of the path he found his sword. Strangely, he doesn't see any blood on it from the creatures he had hurt with it. He goes further and finds the place again where his tent is. There is no sign of last night's bloody battle. The blood and dead creatures are gone. Akio just wants to quickly pack everything up and leave. He knows that he will never enter this cursed forest again. Akio comes back to the parking lot and drives back home. A few days later he goes to a psychiatrist for therapy. He met up with his friends and got along again. After 2 weeks he finally found a job again and is leading a normal life again. He often goes to the cemetery and talks to his wife and children at the grave about what he has experienced and promises to enjoy his life until one day they will be together again in heaven. End of the story.